Where you going?
Into Burma.
Burma's a war zone.
Well, what I'm asking is that we compensate you for a few hours of your time that will help change people's lives.
Are you bringing in any weapons?
Of course not.
You're not changing anything.
My name's Kent Johnson. I'm a property master slash weapons supervisor slash armorer.
I've worked with Kent Johnson for more years than I'd like to believe. And I find him to be this amazing man who just will live and die over detail. He drives me crazy. Matter of fact, we call him Eager Beaver Overachiever, EBOA. There is nothing that escapes him, and he's very demanding and he's extremely detailed.
Property master is anything that the actors physically work with, whether it's food, whether it's a weapon, whether it's a computer, anything the actors work with, that's what we do. These are just a few things we bring for basically for craft service, set operations during the day. It looks a little strange, but it's in character, so if it gets in camera, it's okay.
Come on down here, Jack.
So he equipped, I mean, he did this himself, everything in the movie, which was thousands upon thousands of artifacts that these Burmese soldiers and the missionaries and Rambo would use. It's a very, very detailed job in what he does.
ISS Independent Studio Services is a property rental house, and they service the entertainment industry since roughly 1977. And they have probably the best facility for weapons for studio use probably in the world.
Who else to take to the jungle and hopefully never bring them back? But we brought him. And this was his meat.
We spent a day in this gun room, and we had, like cards made out with all the mercenaries' names and just all the details of all the characters.
So he would take me through the whole process and explain to me what this weapon does, and I said, it doesn't matter. It does. He goes, it does matter. A lethal weapon in today's army. I've been through mortars, I've been through bazookas. They even napalmed me, but finally they poured hot water on my feet, and that was it. The old teapot.
You maintain an idea of what the director's vision is, and his mercenaries were very specialized people in this particular project.
When writing the script, I knew that I wanted a sniper. The idea was to find the finest sniper weapon at the time.
In his mind, he knew exactly what he wanted, and we went through and put the pieces together and fine-tuned a few things and spent all day here.
Finally, we found the old workhorse, which is the Barrett, a classic 50 caliber weapon with a 3-mile range that fires with such unbelievable force at 4,000 feet a second. This is a weapon, when it hits, demolishes.
It is very unique that it is long range, high powered, and it's basically, it takes people out. And we went 7 or 8 different ways with it and ended up with the Barrett 50 because it was right for the director, it was right for the look that he needed for his movie.
What we use in the film is one that's just coming out of the market now, so it was state of the art.
What Sly wanted was he wanted a sniper rifle, it's the next generation, that could basically stop anything and anybody. And this is a vehicle. There's guns that'll fire faster. Everybody's familiar with the minigun that fires rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire. The damage done by this gun, with the amount of shots in it, will tear anything apart that a minigun won't tear apart. This gun will tear it apart. Sly is just, he wants his shot, he wants his creativity, he wants what he wants, but he never puts anybody in jeopardy. He relies on me to do my job correctly, safety, to have the right load in the gun, whether it's quarter load, half load, full load, and he's real conscious of it. He doesn't make a lot about it on the set, but he brings the people to the set that are his stunt people, his special effects people. He doesn't want people getting hurt, doesn't want people going to the hospital. He wants to make his movie brilliantly, but safely.
Now, if you pay attention here, you'll see the bad side of working with Sly. Since he gets to do all his stuff, this is the stuff we have to endure next. Flamethrowers, 50 caliber machine guns, he would do it himself, but he can't play all the roles. So.
And as it ended up working out, that we did a little boot camp, and everybody was trained how to reload their weapons, how to fire their weapons standing, sitting, on their back.
I think the boot camp initially that they had set up was supposed to be a lot longer than the abbreviated version that we ultimately got.
There was a little trouble at first, I think, getting the weapons into the country, which isn't kind of surprising, really. You know, the amount of, I can't remember, I think Kent told me, I think it was something like 90,000 rounds of ammunition that were brought into the country. I mean, literally enough to start a war. And we used them all, I believe. And they had a little trouble getting it in, but eventually they did, and we did a week with the Thai Special Forces.
There were some Western gun specialist guys and some stunt people on hand, and there's a lot of people that knew a lot of things about weapons and how to use them.
This is where the shell's coming out. Okay, you got a lot to think about. Okay. I'm going to make sure you do that right.
These guys were not only thorough with their weapons training, but they were just incredibly detailed. They were very demanding on small things like where our elbows were while we held guns, things that you would never think that there was a difference in walking between how to walk in the forest as opposed to how to walk on flat land, how to walk in water, things that you just never would think of.
I was very excited because, like I said before, I've been in Black Hawk Down and done all that kind of stuff, so I really love, looking heroic while not getting shot at. So we actually started the training, and they said to me, Matt, you don't need to do this, you're a sniper, so you'll be sitting off in the corner somewhere shooting, so you don't have to do all this stuff. And I was like, oh, balls, because I really love doing it and learning. So I actually had to go and sit off and sit to one side after a while and just lie there and look dramatic holding my weapon.
Matthew knew his weapon. He knew how to break the weapon down, he knew how to load it, he knew how to keep it safe. And the safety factor on this gun, not only when you fire in this direction, but it's like what happens from the muzzle brake 15 feet to the right, 15 feet to the left. Those are critical areas. So it's not that you could be standing there at the front of the barrel when you fire this gun. For all of our trekking shots and our carry shots and stuff, we made a rubber model, which is a lot lighter. It's 2/3 lighter than the original gun. Sly wrote it. We've got it.
I knew at the very end of this film to have some sort of finale and then a throwback, kind of again a half-assed metaphor, how things really don't change. There's a tall boy bomb dropped 60 years earlier when Japan was fighting America and Britain in Burma. It doesn't go off, but it's a bomb. It's still this threat that's always there. So Rambo, when he primes it with a claymore, what I'm trying to say is, yes, it's a visual bonanza, but also here it is 60 years later, and a weapon that was meant to destroy other people comes back and actually destroys another generation, and he himself has become a weapon. He's no longer like a physical being anymore. He just has become war. And Rambo uses this real tall boy bomb, which, by the way, if it explodes, I know that some people say, oh, it's a nuclear explosion. It's not a nuclear at all. It has so much TNT, it would blow a 100-foot crater, maybe 150 feet wide and 60 feet straight down. It would be incredibly devastating. In the movie, there was a scene, Rambo goes back and destroys the pirate's boat. And that was shot several ways. One, I played the character, very aggressive and angst-filled, angry at himself that he'd gotten involved, that he'd been pulled back in, that the beast is out. And I used my knife from Rambo 2. And I stab the gas cans and cut the boat loose, and as I set it on fire, I throw the knife, symbolizing that it's over, I'm done. As the knife sinks, I sink out of the film. Well, it just didn't seem to ring true at that moment. So I had to make a new knife. And I thought, well, you know what? Again, here's where a mistake of sorts turns into a good thing.
And he wanted something different, something that hasn't been seen, hasn't been used. And he drew this out on a little piece of paper.
The knife is reflective of the situation, that we're going into a savage heart. Savage Darkness, a brutal hand-to-hand situation. So the knife lacks any kind of sophistication, it lacks a balance. It is just meant to be confrontational and lethal, up close and personal. When Rambo is fashioning a knife, he's actually fashioning himself. He is one with this weapon. He's rekindling that beast inside.
We started out with a truck spring, and basically we heated the truck spring, and Sly worked with his hammer, and this is like a 6-pound hammer, and it's got a steel shaft in it, and it's heavy. And he beat this hammer all night and started out with the original truck spring. We heated it. He started making shapes. He started beating it, and 15 hours later, he ended up making this knife.
It's a real forge, and the knife was, I don't know, a couple thousand degrees. It just heated up to the point where I was going to do it just with a rag around my hands, and I had to put in these industrial leather gloves, soaked them in ice water.
Well, after we burned the first 4 pair of gloves, that's how hot his hands were. I mean, actually burned the gloves. We ended up going through 7 more after the first 4. And we were very fortunate to have actually broke into a store and found 7 more pair, and we went through everything. Went through 11 pairs of gloves that evening while he was forging his knife for the movie.
If you were making the knife in actual time, you would have time for it to cool and take your time about it. But this had to have a certain sort of momentum, so you had to deal with molten steel constantly. And let's just say I had a very warm handshake for a long, long time. I thought it would be ironic that the weapon that the Burmese troopers use on the helpless Karen is turned around and used on them.
Go back to first day at gunroom. Sly wanted a gun with heavy power that would disintegrate.
So we were going to use a .50 caliber, military issue, probably circa from Vietnam. And I was going to hold this weapon, and trying to do that was virtually impossible.
When we got it together and we put it together and we put the shells in and weighed the gun and everything, it worked out at about 120 pounds. Sly could do it. He could pick it up and he could fire the gun, but it wasn't quite as flexible as we needed for what we needed to do.
It was meant to be mounted. So we mounted on the truck, and I go, you think this thing will have enough impact? You think it'll have enough presence? So when I fire it.
First time we put it in Tint's Jeep and we bolted it to the floor and stuff, and we test fired the gun, everything was great, it tore the floor out of the Jeep. Then we found out that it took 1/2-inch steel plate, bolted down to the Jeep itself, then we mounted the gun, then we were able to fire the gun in the Jeep.
So the kick on this thing is stupendous.
And Sly spending days on the Jeep firing this gun, it was, it took a lot. I mean, it beats you up. Mortals don't do that, but he does, and that's Rambo, and John Rambo knows how to do that, and again, he picked a good tool. I think Sly gave him a great movie. I was very, very fulfilled myself in what I brought to the movie. You know, it's a very small part of it, but it's the physical things, and the guns look great. I mean, the stunt guys did a great job. I could bring all the guns in the world. If the guys don't know what to do with them safely, it doesn't mean anything. But, I mean, Sly demanded that we just do more, and we did.
So I was giving my daily dose of Kent Johnson, and glad to say that he kept me on my toes. But boy, what a tedious job.
Male bonding. We're all brave here. It was a good group of people. I mean, it was a very ambitious schedule. It was, again, it's something I'm happy I was there. I'm glad it's over. But it's worth it.